This is all about the work that the Water Stories team has been doing, and it's a special treat. All of us are going to showcase a little bit about what we've been doing personally, along with sort of some of the greater things that Water Story is doing coming up in 2025 and beyond. If you want to take a deep look and actually meet our team members and see what we're doing, this is a great chance to see kind of globally the impact that Water Stories is having. And yeah, I'm super excited. It's great actually joining and presenting what we're all doing instead of just having a speaker, seeing the whole team. And it's really a privilege to have you guys here and having the whole team here. And it's beautiful. I've known everybody here for several years now, and so it's cool seeing the impact that we're all having and being able to share that with everybody. So I'm going to turn it over to Zach.
I feel really blessed and grateful to work with a team of amazing mission-driven people to bring water stories into the world. And it's really fun to work together on water stories. And it's also really fun to see what everyone does individually in their own efforts, working on water in their communities for their lands and the people living there. And it's really fun to just watch it grow successively each year. Just by putting in continual effort in this direction, I think you'll be really amazed at where it'll lead you. First up, we have Apollo Saldana, who is one of our apprentices way back in 2019, worked with Elemental Ecosystems for a couple of years, works with Water Stories, and also does his own wonderful work based out in North Carolina.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Zach, for that intro. Yeah, super happy to be here. It's amazing to be a part of this crew and this team and to be able to learn all of these skills and like apply them in my own life where I'm living here in Asheville, North Carolina. And yeah, I got a little slideshow that I'm going to pop up here. So most of my work after apprenticing with Elemental Ecosystems, started doing that in 2020. I moved here in 2022, I believe, and a bulk of my work has been spring tapping. And here in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the southern Appalachian mountain range, there's tons of springs. There's tons of water, so much water, and it's so abundant. And so I took the skills that I learned with Zach, apprenticing with Elemental Ecosystems, and I applied it to Appalachia. And so a majority of my work has actually been these like small, like few day projects of spring tappings. And I've been doing them for communities. I've been doing them for homesteads. I've been doing them for businesses and organizations. And just to be able to harness this wild water and put it into a piping system to service the ecosystem, the local wildlife and humans, it's just a profound thing that I'm, continuingly to be grateful for in so many ways. And so, and it's also very interesting to see how the people from this land back then used to try to harness this wild water. There's like been so many different techniques, like little caves as you see here, where they just like let it pull up and they just like harvest the water from there, and different like concrete structures and like dry stack stone. And so I believe I've done around 13 or 14 spring tappings in the past few years. So it's been great. And I've been able to hire out my friends, been able to do spring tappings for my friends and people. And I haven't had to market or anything because of the local community here is really strong, and word of mouth gets out around, and nobody does this technique, and it's all natural, where on the contrary, concrete is used a lot, and that's just a system that always tends to fail, where the one that I learned from Zach is just usually just all natural materials besides the pipe. And so been able to put that into the land here. And also beaver dam analogs, been able to implement a few of these in this area. Here's a couple of these. There's a pretty large one here that was just in a stream, and the water was just running off of this property, and just a simple little check dam permeable structure there, and look at all that water being held. And this one to the right is actually a BDA that was above a spring that I had tapped in this ravine, and I'm using this technique to hopefully charge this spring and make it more of a flow rate, increased flow rate year round, and which actually turns out that it worked. And so this spring that was like had a pretty low flow rate through the past year and a half because of this BDAs now flows even more all through the year. So I thought that was pretty cool. And some earthworks, I've been getting increasingly, incrementally getting more complex projects the more that I feel capable and able, and just like putting myself out there and like wanting to get more pond building projects and just like more large scale earthworks. And so here's one that I did outside of town, and this was post Hurricane Helene. So there was a lot, and this was an interesting one because it's what we sometimes refer to as a good old boy pond, and that somebody who just came and just basically dug a basin, and they didn't really like think about the technique and how to like properly seal the pond. And so I came in after the fact, after somebody built it, and I put in a spillway for the water to flow out of, and then there was also this big ravine coming out there on the picture to the right, where all the water was channeling, but it was eroding the land, and it didn't have a way to get to the pond. So I developed and built a spillway that harnesses on the picture to the left all of that water from the ravine all the way to the pond, and I built this boulder waterfall that leads into the pond. And so a safe way to get all that water that's being channeled in the ravine to the pond. And also, picture to the right, I pulled back this slope that was way too steep and gave it a good shallow angle. And yeah, just tried to come in after the fact and do my best to make this pond as viable and as long term as possible. And also, I've been getting into film here, and thankfully, one of our previous students, Tim Orman, who is a local engineer here in Asheville, North Carolina, we've been collaborating, and he's been doing a lot of really cool projects for the city, public sector projects. And this one I think is really great and really profound. A local community college has decided to convert an unused parking lot into a wetland, where 16 acres of this hardscape from this campus is being channeled into this wetland and being infiltrated, being filtered, and acting as a buffer for big storm events. And so I started filming this back last year around November, and been the filming since then, as much as I can to present day. And it's looking great. I'm super happy to tell this story through a mini documentary and like in conjunction with water stories. And I just think that this is a perfect example of how other municipalities and other cities can take on, other institutions can take this as an example and implement it, because there's so much hardscape and unused hardscape for that we could really implement, water retention, landscape design, and water cycle restoration to help buffer storms, help clean our water, help our stormwater system, bring life to the urban environment. And so I just thought this was an amazing project that I look forward to publishing here soon, hopefully this summer. So we'll see. And yeah, here's a couple more pictures. The whole parking lot, asphalt, kind of hard to see all the basins, but there's like a cascading system of, I think, 5 basins. And yeah, it's awesome. And just a little shout out to all the work that I've been doing for water stories and elemental ecosystems. Last summer, I went out west to California and Oregon with Zach and Megan, and a lot of our students as well joined us for the work. And yeah, it was just an amazing time. I felt like I upgraded so much in my own skill set, in my excavator operating skill set, in my just filming skill set, and it was just a good summer for me to just upgrade and evolve. And yeah, super grateful for it. This was the pond that we built in Oregon, and a little bit of the things that I helped with. I helped with the inlet spillway and building that. I did this. Zach challenged me. He challenged me to the SEP challenge, which is all of these little ravines and little coves that you see around this pond. I I I, uh, I carved those in and like smooth those out with the topsoil, and yeah, SEP challenge. Hope I did good. I think I feel pretty proud about it. And so a lot of the rocks around the pond as well. I set those, and yeah, I helped with many things and with the direction of Zach and the help of Megan. And yeah, super glad to be a part of that project because look at that water body. It's amazing. And yeah, that's kind of the last slide I have right here. And stop sharing for now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that I'm super grateful to be here, trying to evolve my own craft and my own practice. And yeah, I look forward to the future. Thanks, everyone.
Oh yeah, Paulo's dope.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Apollo. I think you passed the SEP challenge, but we still got to send the photo to him and see. For people that don't know, a bit of an inside joke. uh, Water bodies are much more aesthetic and function better when they have a really nice meandering curvy edge. They look more natural, they have more edge, they have more structure. And so Sep's always trying to get more out of this. And so I told Apollo, I want to send a picture of this to Sep and him to just be amazed at how curvy the edge of this water body is. Because it's a lot easier to make straight lines or gentle curves. And so he did a really good job incorporating a lot of eddies and coves into the edge of that water body. Next up, we have Julia Eden, who is one of our founding members and has been working with us for over a year now. I think even more than that. Doing all great things in the community and wearing many hats for Water Stories, but also doing some really interesting advocacy work in Oregon.
So yeah, hi. As Zach mentioned, I'm Julia Eden, and I was a founding member of the core course. And yeah, I've been with Water Stories for a little bit over a year, a few months over a year, I guess. And one of the most profound parts of the course for me was how much I found out about myself. So I really came into this course feeling like I was going to be another Zach. I was going to, operate heavy machinery. I was going to do earthworks, build ponds and terraces. And what I didn't know at the time was I was really in a period of transition, and the course really helped me identify that and really illuminated a lot of what was going on with me without my knowledge. And so it was very surprising to find out that I didn't actually want to operate machinery or do any of the heavy manual labor. Huge surprise. I'd been working with plants for like 10 years. And so it seemed like it was just going to be a natural expansion of that work. And all of a sudden, I had to pivot and I had to figure out what was going on because I'd found my place. I'd found my home in water cycle restoration. I've been working in sustainability for a couple of decades. And this really felt like where I needed to be. But all of a sudden it was like, well, how am I going to be here? How am I going to do this work? So I finished the course and I got certified. And then I basically just raised my hand for every opportunity that came my way. I tried lots of different project types and tasks. And for me, what really stuck was advocacy. And so I think when people think of advocacy, when they hear the word, what tends to come up for them is probably, nonprofit work or protesting in the street, doing sort of community organization. And that's huge and that's important. And that's definitely part of advocacy. But to me, advocacy is really, it's almost just another word for education. It's really about getting the information to the people that need it to make the changes that need to happen. And so it can be, working or volunteering with nonprofits, but also community presentations or conversations with friends, families, strangers that you come across, hosting film nights. One of the favorite things for me that I do is working with Water Story students, actually. I get to do a lot of the student support side of things, and that's something I just really, really enjoy. So yeah, there can be a lot of advocacy, can look like a lot of different things. But as far as my nonprofit work, that's definitely what takes up, a decent chunk of my time. I do have a board seat on my local watershed council. That's just an advisory role. But today, what I really kind of want to focus on is a nonprofit called Plug Oregon. We are a fledgling nonprofit that I have the honor of being able to help start. And we were originally founded by Brenda Smolafoti of Tabula Rasa Farms and Andrew Millicent, I guess OSU maybe, and our own Zach Weiss. And I was brought in about 6 months after they began. I'm now the board secretary. And our mission is to really improve permitting laws in Oregon and eventually everywhere beyond, to allow for better infiltration of groundwater, as well as the earthworks, that support a healthy water cycle. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because myself, my colleagues, we are finding that we have been incredibly successful, successful beyond our dreams, and certainly a lot faster than we were expecting. We've been so busy getting out into the community and doing what I think of as like the real work, the work that's going to instigate change, that we are still working on our nonprofit status. We're almost 2 years old, or we're right around 2 years old, and we're still waiting on that final push through to get that. We're looking for volunteers. That hasn't taken up nearly enough of our time. And to date, we've gotten out exactly one newsletter. So one newsletter in 2 years. And the reason why this sort of day-to-day structural side of things is kind of getting pushed to the back burner is because, like I said, we've just been successful getting out into the community. And so a couple examples of that, we've partnered with a local organization called Friends of Family Farmers, and we're helping them develop the language for a new bill proposal. And more recently, and very excitingly, we were offered a seat to testify before our local legislators. So there's a lot of pieces that keep moving, and we just keep getting pulled in these different directions. And basically what we're finding is we're meeting a lot of people that work for the agencies, the bureaucracies that are involved in sort of, legislature, regulations, and permitting. And they are explaining to us that the information they receive is from incredibly biased sources. So most of the education that they have access to is coming from corporate interests, it's coming from lobbyists, and in a lot of cases, it's coming from other nonprofits that are funded by special interests. And when we come into the room and they find out that we literally only care about the health of the community, the environment, the watershed, they get so excited. And we keep getting introduced around to other people. We keep getting invited to the table to have these conversations and to, give our input on how things should go and how things should be done. And overall, there's just this trend that the people that we are meeting that run these agencies, the ones that are in charge of making these decisions, they are incredibly well-meaning. They've gotten into this work because they want to do something good and productive, for their community or their landscape or whatever. So they are trying to do the right thing, and they know that the current thing isn't working. I know, for example, here in Oregon, we're out of water. It's gone. So if you apply for a new water permit, a new water rights permit today, it's never going to happen. You have to wait for someone else to give theirs up because there are no new water rights permits. We're literally out of water. So they're seeing those kinds of results as, what's happened because of these rules and regulations that they've been enforcing, and they want to change it. And they're basically begging us for the education because they don't know how or where to get that education. And then they see an opportunity when we come into the room. And I'm not saying this to be hubristic. I'm not up here trying to brag. I'm saying this because I think that myself, my colleagues, we're all just regular people. We have full-time jobs. We're doing all kinds of projects. Currently this is a volunteer experience. And yet the excitement with which we're greeted by the people that are able to make the decisions, it says to me that anybody that lives anywhere right now in a place that is having water issues and, drought, flood, erosion, whatever it is, I think at this point that might include everybody on the planet or close to it. I'm not sure, but it's definitely most of us. And you right now, because of the way things are, you actually do have an incredible amount of power. You have an incredible opportunity to go in and to be this force of change and to really, push for the changes that you want to see around you. Yeah, so I'm just really encouraged by all of the work and knowing that it could spread really rapidly. We just need people to get involved and do it. And yeah, so I would say keep your eyes on plug. Hopefully we'll be in an area near you and let's all get to work.
Awesome. Great job,
We
Julia.
appreciate
And
it.
just so hopeful and inspiring. The ripple effects you guys have created in such a short amount of time. To hear yesterday that Linda's testifying in front of the government about these issues, that's incredible. And you guys are accomplishing it really quickly with a really powerful team of women leaders that are just, showing up and speaking up. And that's all it really takes to change the world, is show up and speak up. And you guys are doing a great job of it. Awesome. Next up, we have Nick Steiner, who has been with us as well for, I think, a little bit more than a year now. Time seems to just all blend together. But it was another one of our founding member students and doing really incredible work in Europe, bringing this work to all sorts of different clients and farmers and hotels and really amazing stuff. So next up, we have Nick.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, for me, water stuff has always been my passion since almost since as long as I can remember. And I've worked on lots of kind of smaller projects and done lots of kind of permaculture stuff, but always wanted to do a little bit more. And I didn't quite feel ready to really tackle larger machines and really get onto it. And then at some point, my friend Oliver told me, he's like, "Hey, I heard from Zach, he's planning to do a course. Maybe we should join that." And so that wasn't really a real question. We had to join it. And I was super excited to join the course. And the funny thing is that it actually took me forever to get certified, because while doing the course, I was speaking about it publicly and I was getting so much work that I didn't have time to get certified because I was too busy working, which was kind of nice. And then after years, Zach reached out and asked if I could imagine joining the team of Water Stories. And of course, I did that. And then at some point realized, hey, maybe I should just also get certified. Would be nice to have it. So did that in the end. And now it's basically when I'm not out there making memes for social accounts of Water Stories. This is kind of my favorite office, to really be out in the field and work on farms. So I live on Tenerife, Canary Islands, which is very southern off the coast of Africa. But we also have a lot of projects in Spain, and this is one of my favorite ones in southern Spain, Finca Pajaretillo of Manuel Troya. And to give you a bit of an idea, this is roughly the outline. It's around 500 hectares, which is, I think, around 1,000 acres, if I'm not mistaken, more or less. And so I'm also always doing a lot of kind of mapping and analysis work to get a bit of an idea of catchments. And so that we analyze a little bit of the streams. And there were big issues there with erosion. So whenever it rained, as it is in dry areas, long dry period, and then lots of rain all at once, and it caused erosion. And so one of the first things we started doing there was marking out a terrace, because we wanted to bring water from an area where it was eroding. We wanted to bring it into a valley where we could use it. And yeah, when you work with an excavator and good operators, you can be really precise. But there, on farm, we work with what we have, and it's a bulldozer. And working precise, down to a few millimeters of spillways is quite the challenge, but super fun. And while we were working, there was an announcement that there would be a massive storm coming in. And so we had to be really quick and make the right decisions of how we could make it safe. So we built their rock armored spillway. And before we could really finish, but at least we had the spillway done, so we prioritized correctly, we got hit with 25 millimeters in half an hour. And I think that's around an inch, if for those not in metric system. So around an inch in half an hour, which was quite a lot, but everything worked, so there we still have to smooth out the edges and all that, but it was great to see, in a few days of work, what you can get done. And this is just the beginning. So we're connecting this terrace to a series of wetlands, ponds, and then dams further on. So we're working from the top of the catchment all the way down. And it's a fantastic project, large farm, and you can really see the difference now when it's when it's dry, and then when it rains, you see water is suddenly going where you want it to go and not in other places. And similar situation, and this is one of the projects we did in Sicily, where a friend asked me to help out, and the view was just super spectacular. And as in many other places, they just built roads way too steep into the mountainside without really planning anything for water. So we spent a lot of time just trying to fix the roads there. So this is one of the sediment traps that we built on the side to capture a bit of that erosion and to slow the water down. And that's really when I realized, like, so many projects have issues with roads. And I didn't think of it at the beginning, but I think if you just focus on building better roads for farms and landscapes, you would have enough work for multiple lifetimes. That problem always comes up. And here, this was one that we just did 2 weeks ago. We were in France working with my friend Oliver and Noemi. And actually, the three of us, we met through the course. So I knew Oliver before, but Noemi, she joined the course, and we met her, and we decided to work together as a team. And this was our first kind of bigger project that we did together. And it was really fun because we always had paper, scissors, rock matches who got to operate the excavator. Because we're still not really great operators, but you have to learn somewhere, and it was so much fun just there with the team. And then the weather changed a little bit, so we built a bit of a series of ponds and wetlands and all that. So that we were just done with the rock armoring, working in perfect conditions. But yeah, you can see, like, getting to spend your days outside with awesome people. What more to ask for? And actually, then 1 week after we left, the pond was already full, which was really nice. And the client sent that over. And as you can see, there are funny laws in France that you have to put up fences around water bodies, even if they don't really serve anything. But yeah, it's always nice to see the results directly. And it's also now that we are working really on kind of safety, because oftentimes, especially on farms and other areas, the safety aspects of water, they get neglected a bit. And so this is one project that we just started working with, where I'm doing a bit of the analysis of water catchments, where a lot of water bodies get built without really planning for that. And so I'm focusing more and more now on also using technology to build safer features. And so what we're doing there, I'm working with a bit of an algorithm to figure out, also zoomed in a bit, what are the different catchments? So how big are the sub-catchments? And then we put in extreme rainfall numbers to get a bit of an idea. It's okay, how much water would need to flow through a spillway in a really heavy rain event? And I always love the mix of, like, just being dirty all day in the mud, but then also using technology to help us in design and in sizing of all these features. So that's also a lot of the work we're doing now for different farms all over Europe. And it's also the kind of the communication aspect. I find it so important to get the word out there of why water cycle restoration is so important and what we can do. And I had the pleasure of being invited to a luxury hotel last year, initiated by Alpha Low. Those of you who are on LinkedIn, or maybe you know his Substack. So he initiated it, and then we're there at the conference. Also there, those of you who know his head, that's Neil Speckman next to us. So we had a beautiful panel on water cycle restoration and what we can do. And for that panel, basically, I told the hotel, hey, it's fine, I can come to talk, but I'm only going to go if we're also doing some real work. Words are useless if we don't also do action. And said, yeah, let's do it. And so we had this little part that was just not really doing anything. And so we spent a day there building a little rain garden. And perfect timing, we got hit by a massive storm just a day after the conference ended. So it was several hundred millimeters that just went down in a night. It was crazy. And so the hotel was completely flooded. And there we also realized that the land reading skills that we got through the course, they're not only applicable to farms and landscapes, but also to urban environments, and in this situation, to hotels. So this was at, I think, 3 a.m, and we just got out and we spent the whole night just documenting, walking around, observing the water flows and seeing what we could do. And so then the next morning, you see this is a massive, like this goes down almost 2 meters erosion channel that had cut the whole platform. Here, a few images there. The one in the middle, I'm standing in the erosion gully. So it's waist height. It just cut the whole farm. Like everything got really destroyed. But it was nice, the rain garden held on. We had added some mulch into it to let it look pretty for the event. So of course the mulch washed away a bit, but we added more rocks and fixed that. And we just went back to the hotel last week. And so now, the vegetation is taking over. We still have to plant around it all the plants we want, but it's great to see that with a little bit of work and a little bit of planning, we can really make a difference also in these environments. We can stop erosion, we can refill aquifers, and especially in different situations. And there, the funny part is sometimes when architects and other people are planning, they really don't care about water, or I don't know how else to explain it, but this is one area with the arrow indicated that down there is an apartment block, and almost the whole hotel was designed like this. So this red thing you see, the bottom is a road, and it was sloped down to the stairs and down into the apartment. So every time it rains, all the water from the road was directed to the apartments, and also there's no rain gutter. And so this was the night when it happened. So these are the stairs down there. And of course, everything got flooded, thousands of euros of damage every time heavy rain happens. And so there, we could help the hotel. We could be there with design. We could give some little pointers. And here you can see the result, So I told them, hey, just add a little step, make it 10 centimeters higher, and you're going to solve that issue. And so it's so nice to see that even in these environments, like these tiny little steps and the land reading skills that we get, we can apply them in urban environments, and we can save thousands of euros in damages and flooding and all that. And yeah, I think for me, when I first did the course, I never thought that I would work for luxury hotels and help them solve flooding issues. But it's also the diversity that's so fun, So we have some projects, hundreds of hectares on a farm, sleeping outside and just getting our hands dirty all day. And then the next week we're working on these kind of projects, and the diversity is really what it's all about. And yeah, without water stories, definitely wouldn't have been possible. So really grateful, that the course is out there and that we could do it.
Awesome. That was fantastic. That's got to be the most valuable step ever in existence. That one little
Yeah.
piece. And just what a great recognition and reading of the landscape to see here's this huge problem that's easily solved, that's just from people not considering water in how they do things. So next up, we have Megan Neary, who was also one of our apprentices back in 2019, has been doing all sorts of great work with elemental ecosystems, with water stories, with her own business. Jill of many trades and many hats. And so Megan, take it away.
Great. So really quick, I wanted to point out that there's two more important members to our team who aren't represented here today. There's Peter in New Hampshire, who's our developer, and he has created our whole course platform, and he's a fantastic human. Same with Brian, who's our animator down in Argentina. So just wanted to give those guys a shout out because there's a few more folks than what you see just here. But my name is Megan, and I'm currently living in Northwest Montana, and this is a photo from a recent trip. And I've been working with Water Stories since 2021. Today, I do mostly workshop coordination, but similar to Julia, I sort of wear many different hats, just trying to make the day-to-day move forward. Also, I've started working with Zach originally in 2020 with elemental ecosystems. So I've really been more hands in the dirt, boots on the ground for the past several years. But since Water Stories, and specifically this winter, I'm trying to become more of a prominent voice in the space, because I've witnessed a lot of really incredible things happen through our work through elemental ecosystems. And I would like to share today a bit of those inspirational projects. I also have my own company, but gosh, I do a lot with Water Stories and elemental ecosystems. So keeps me pretty busy and don't have a lot of time to do my own thing here in Northwest Montana. But anywho, these are the projects I mainly want to cover. So I've been, like I said, with Zach and Apollo since 2020, and I've been on every project domestically since then. So let's dive into Willamette Valley. This is our most recent project. And it was super impactful and really incredible in a large part due to the client. Our client was just a fantastic human, like almost all of our clients. She had a wonderful vision of her farm. She had this fantastic grazing plan. Zach came in to help with the water design. And so I came to help implement the first phase of this water design, which is what you see here is a field. The ragweed hasn't quite gotten into bloom yet, but there's tons of ragweed and other noxious weeds, and it's just not very productive. And so what the client wanted and what Zach helped design is a wildlife pond here. And so this is like most of the way through the construction of that wildlife pond. Apollo and I kind of played different roles, sometimes excavator, a lot of times ground support surveying, stuff like that. And what's special about this project is this field was drain tiled. Okay, so drain tile is one of the infrastructure that farmers put in place to make a field arable. And it was really rewarding every day. We would see as we're digging, ripping through that drain tile, freeing up some of the water that has and is would have been currently flowing and draining from that field. That's now not even in use. You know, they don't even grow hay on this anymore. So that was really fantastic. And this is a photo of right after we finished with the earthworks portion of it. And this is in the Willamette Valley, so they have fantastic clay here. The project was quite straightforward. And then this is the photo that the client took this, I think, September, October, right when the rain started. So it's still filling up. There's still a ways to go before the pond is full. And I can't wait to come back and visit it because I think this pond is just going to be incredible again because the land steward is a really amazing human. And it was just super rewarding to break up that drain tile and create more of a wetland feature here. Speaking of wetlands, this is another one of my favorite projects. So this is in Big Sky, Montana. And as you can see here, the green grass right in the foreground, that's from the water wicking up this hillside, hydrating up this hillside. You can also see the terrace around the pond is really moist. This photo was taken in September. So in Montana, it doesn't rain from like June, July until about August, September. And so this is just water that has naturally stayed throughout the dry summer, likely through some kind of groundwater flow. And I didn't take an awesome before picture, sorry about that. But I was running the front loader for this project, and this is what it looked like before. This used to be a parking lot, so it was originally a wetland. At some point in time, some developer came, they were building a big building, and they took all of their fill from that building project, and they dumped it right in the wetland, right? Because who needs wetlands? Apparently, we need more parking spaces. And so the client brought us in to reclaim that wetland. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that's what it looked like after 2 years of reshaping the pond, taking out that sediment, and then planting a diverse. Actually, I don't even know if we did a cover crop species for this. I think the client did. But it was so amazing to revisit this project 2 years later and see there's a lot of like native wetland species that are just coming back on their own. Like we didn't plant that. So in this photo, you can see there's like rushes and sedges all around the edge of the pond. That was just from the seed bank that's already in the soil because this was a wetland. And all we did was reshape the pond and nature took over from there. Furthermore, we found what we call an axolotl, which is a barred tiger salamander. And this species, like all salamanders and amphibians, they're losing an incredible amount of habitat here in Montana, partially due to the loss of habitat from development, also from the pollution of water sources because they're an indicator species, which means that when the water starts to get not ideal, like not pure and pristine, they're the first species to get affected. So it was absolutely incredible to see axolotls coming back to a wetland that we've restored because these species only exist in 2 lakes in the entirety of Montana. So yeah, very inspiring. And another project, this is a little bit north up in Pony, Montana. We did this pond renovation for Thomas Alpel, who's a fantastic botanist if you guys don't know him. And he originally installed this pond 25 years ago, but it never really held water. There was a bentonite clay liner, and that had eventually failed. And so the geology of this area is all decomposing granite. So there's not a lot of natural clay resources on the land itself. And so to renovate the pond and make it hold water, we brought in some local clay sources. There was a foundation for a really big building, Wheat, Montana, not too far away. And so the client just had to pay for the trucking, brought in all this. I mean, it's still local. It's just, a couple miles away. Brought in all this local clay. And then Zach and I was mostly on the hose for this project. Oh my goodness. Yes, many hours just hydrating clay. So if you ever are in an area or working for a client and they're like, oh, I want a pond, but it maybe doesn't make so much sense to put the pond there. Let me tell you from firsthand experience, it takes a lot of water to hydrate dry clay when you're trying to force a pond in an area. Not to say that that's what this project is. This project actually made a lot of sense to do the pond renovation, but just for your reference. And this is what it looks like after completing the pond. And so, yeah, I like this photo a lot because what happened was as soon as Zach and I finished, we left, drove back home, and then it snowed 3 feet, so 1 meter in one storm. And so what you see here is the pond basically filling up from the melt from that single storm. So really rewarding again to see the pond filling up so quickly. This is a photo from, I think, in 1 year, maybe 2 years after we built the pond or renovated the pond. And if you go to Thomas J. Alpel's YouTube channel, he has a great video on the construction process and what it looks like now. And then I wanted to point out just a few other aspects of water cycle restoration projects that I've played a big role in. One is the installation of multiple food forests. So the one that comes to immediate mind for me is Carlton, Oregon, Tabula Rasa. If you guys have watched our YouTube, you've probably seen videos from this project. We did a really big 6-pond system. And then I came in and helped install the food forest all around this area. And again, this project is so rewarding to me because it's closer to the holistic picture of water cycle restoration that I see, which is it's not just, bringing big excavators on the landscape and building a pretty pond. It's so much more than that. It's bringing food back into the valley for the humans and for the wildlife. So the photo on the right here is wapato, which is an indigenous food staple source, also an important plant for the native wildlife of this area in Oregon. And then in the middle, it's josta berries. And on the other side, it's a big pear tree. And this last year, so let me see, we did the food forest installation in 2021 and then revisited in 2024. And it was so incredible to see how much fruit was just dripping off of all of the trees. We planted them all as bare root. So they're just now starting to fruit. And it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. So super happy and blessed that I had the opportunity to work with this client, work with Elemental Ecosystems to see this food forest come to fruition. And okay, last example here. This is a project that I did on my own. And so it was for a friend in Hungry Horse, Montana. And what had happened was there was a big microburst storm. So what that means is like a big wind event happened and 14 trees fell down on his property. And he has just a small suburban lot. And so I came in and we created a design to include a bunch of hugel cultures, which is basically wood buried. For us, I buried it because we're in Montana again. It's quite dry here. And so it makes more sense for the wood to be really in contact as much as possible with all of the surrounding dirt. So we built hugel cultures all around the boundary of his property. And yeah, this is what they looked like finished. This was my first project where I was like running the excavator by myself. And so at first it was very clunky, but then towards the end, I fell in a really great flow. And just a reminder to all of you, running excavators and power tools is actually pretty easy. You just have to do it. So this is what that project looks like 2 years later. We planted a 13 species cover crop. And so I love this photo because it shows, you can see There's several different plants growing: vetch, Austrian winter pea, yarrow, etc. So that cover crop's really coming in nicely. It's providing a lot of organic matter to the soil, really building that fertility. And then we also installed some edible and native plant species. So this is elderberry, and then we, excuse me, installed also cherries and apples and anything that can grow up here in the Flathead Valley. So yeah, that's all I have to share with you guys. And I'm not as eloquent as Julia, but basically go out there and just do something. It doesn't matter. It can be anything. It could be presentations, it could be skiing, it can be whatever. But, I think we live in a society where we really get stuck in our minds, stuck scrolling on our phones. And I just want to remind everybody that it doesn't matter who you are, what shape you are, where you are, but we have an inherent ability as humans to observe nature and then come to some conclusions about it and really make a positive impact. So, yeah, get out there, start doing some stuff.
Hell yeah, thanks, Megan.
Awesome. Great stuff. Yeah. And the enthusiasm is palpable, which we all love to see. Next up, we have Raleigh Latham, who has been working together with me on and off since 2013, doing all sorts of scheming and videos and projects.
Well, 2015, but still pretty far back.
20 SEP workshop was 2014.
2014, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you get the first one.
And is doing all sorts of great stuff. He's done it with the Soil Food Web School. He's got a compost academy going now. Does all sorts of awesome creative stuff with us, and is also involved in his own projects all around the world.
Cool. I will share here real quick. All right. Thanks, X. Thanks for turning it over. Oh, man. After so many cool presentations, how am I going to match up? Well, I know I am always jealous, like the amount of skill and hands-on experience that Apollo and Zach and Megan have, like what you guys are doing. Just it's always beautiful to see, and I always aspire to, have that same level of practical experience. But I love it. Kind of like most people kind of know me behind the scenes, like Raleigh, he's the webinar boy. He's the webinar guy. I'm like, no, I like to do much more than that, but it's great seeing the impact that I think we've been able to make together with Water Stories, and I think a part of it is the films. And though I haven't got as enough of the excavator time or project time as I've wanted to, it's great seeing the impact that this is making on people and actually getting to meet them in, at workshops and gatherings and see like, oh my gosh, this film started this journey, which actually led to these projects. So even being someone behind the scenes, it's really nice seeing the impact that we're making. So yeah, we've been working with Zach Alfanons against 2015. I'm one of the first people that Zach's worked with at Water Stories when it was just us and Pete and CJ and then Megan and Apollo and then Julia and Nick. It's really cool seeing this team sprout and grow and seeing the community grow. It's really been flourishing and wonderful seeing how much it's grown and how much of an impact we've had. So last year, I really wanted to start actually using my voice to talk about it. Take a chance, like get out there and do something beyond just webinars. So I actually started to do in-person events where I talked about water cycle restoration. One of the first ones in Costa Rica was called Safer Water for Santa Teresa. This is a really fun event we put on with water keepers, and it was about water capture and water quality, because a lot of the issues they had in that area where they had extreme downpours and then it dries out for months. So people were running out of water for one, and two, they had extreme problems with water pollution. So we put on this event to talk about solutions to that. So a lot of great things about improving water quality in streams, capturing rainwater in houses, capturing water off the roads and diverting it. And it was great seeing these solutions come up and seeing people's eyes light up and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even consider that. What was fun with this was even talking, people came up after and they're like, yeah, I really want to do this. Where do I start? And though I was in that point where I could be like, oh man, I could do this tomorrow. It was great seeing that one talk that you can do can lead to so many opportunities And if you keep doing this consistently, there's no end to what this can happen to you if you want to do this type of work. And immediately what led to this afterwards was a local school was like, hey, can you help me let's look at water retention at our school, at Guy's school in Costa Rica. So I was like, you bet. So I went there, we took a look at all the gullies. Their situation was like they had a lot of land, they had extreme rainfall, and they had lots of seasonal creeks there that would dry up in the summertime. So with my kind of like low practical skill set, I was thinking, okay, what can we do with local labor, with not too many materials and not a massive budget? And I create a proposal for them to like, okay, here's some things we can do, kind of like what Michael Krabcheck did in Eastern Europe is, yeah, do check dams and gabions and bamboo check dams that could be built with local labor and not require a lot of machinery, and especially in areas that are hard to access. This can be built with a local crew for not a really super expensive price point. So just create this big proposal, sent to them through a different tiers of where they could go depending on their budget and needs, and eventually working up to like, hey, yeah, if you guys really want to seriously capture water, they had all of these spaces where they could do pond building, and their land type is clay, though they hadn't done test slices yet. I'm sure that would be the next step. It was cool seeing that to be able to look at a landscape and just see like, okay, where can these different earthwork projects happen? And maybe even not a heavy machinery project, just small interventions that could improve the water capture in this land. And though that didn't move forward, it was still a good exercise in, how do you move forward with the client? How do you kind of create a proposal for that? So I kept doing talks all across in 2024. There was a big composting event over the summer in California. It was my first hour-long talk about water cycle restoration, and I really shifted the focus to California. And it was great seeing that people really took heed to that and wanted, they wanted to share that work with kind of their own communities in California. And I did the same talk at some events in Costa Rica. So it's been great, kind of feeling way more comfortable talking to this in front of a crowd and not being scared, because the more of these you do, the more you'll feel comfortable with it. And really, if you keep practicing it, you'll be able to give a 20, 30-minute presentation on water cycle restoration anywhere, and it'll almost feel second nature, but it requires a lot of practice. But those things will automatically lead to opportunities and lead to a lot of connection and awareness if you keep doing them. So other things we did, we filmed this. We had this great time at the intensive at Belmar Farm. We filmed a lot of great stuff there over a week, to make a big project video on Belmar Farm and up at Vernonia Springs, where we captured the material for the new course called the Pond Building Course, which is going to release later this year, and that'll be very exciting. And yeah, it's been fun, editing behind the scenes and telling the story of water capture. It's really fun. I like this animation we did with Brian, where we show how, like raw land starts and how you can peel back the layers of land and then use the compactor to, roll clay in there. And it's really cool. Like, how do you tell the story of the keyway of the dam in a very short amount of time? And that's like a good storytelling tool that we've been experimenting with. So upcoming things, we're working on a new water paradigm film. This is one I wrote and Zach and Megan filmed. Michael, what a hero. He's kind of like the Rajendra Singh of Eastern Europe, did such a heroic effort to stop a dam and build thousands of water retention projects all across Eastern Europe and rally the community to do that. And so hopefully we can tell his story in an inspiring way and share that with everybody. And besides that, I also started my other passion is soil biology and composting. So started an online school called the Compost Academy, which can show people about practical biological composting and not just be stuck in theory. So kind of like how we were interested in water, this is a way that you could improve your soil biology without being bogged down in just science and theory. So if you're interested in that, that's at Compost Academy right now. And we did some fun retreats, which is a great way of exploring that. So that's my presentation. Try to keep it short, and I hope folks learn a bit I think one last thing I want to say about this, there's such a beautiful intermingling of people interested in soil restoration and water cycle restoration because people who come from soil biology end up in water cycle restoration, and people in water cycle restoration inevitably kind of are interested in the soil piece too. So these things are so beautifully interlinked. It's almost like feeling like you're part of these circles that are constantly crossing back and forth all the time. So appreciate the time sharing that with you folks. And when we hand it off to Zach.
Awesome. Awesome. Great work you're doing, Raleigh. And that's just so cool to hear about how you're spreading this message. And a lot of people were chiming in about how in the chats how they wouldn't be here without the films that you've helped create. And Apollo too, big shout outs for all the films that we have there. I'm dropping in the chat here again the Compost Academy, which I shared, which Raleigh started. I think one of the best ways you could learn that to help build the soils that build the water. And these are two very synergistic efforts that the two feed into each other. So I'm talking about my projects all the time, so I'm going to share more just some moments, and then we'll open it up to you guys for question and answer so that there's plenty of time for you guys to discuss. I got to say, it really is amazing to see all the projects you all have been working on, because there is this feedback loop of success that once you have that first small success, it starts snowballing and it just gets stronger and stronger. And before you know it, you're just hanging on for dear life and trying to do as much as you can along that journey. And so this is a project that I did for my folks. They never wanted a pond. It took years and years to convince them that all this water coming off of their home and their roof should go somewhere beneficial. And now they love it. It's their favorite part. My mom walks by it every day. But the moment I want to share here was seeing a blue heron dive into the water and catch a fish and come out and eat it. And now, while my parents weren't too happy because they're trying to raise the fish, I loved it because I love the wildlife. It was an amazing moment to see. And this is kind of a recurring theme. I can't tell you how many water bodies I've seen blue herons or gray herons or frogs or salamanders or organisms that weren't in that area ever before and now are super prolific. This is a project you guys have probably seen a lot, and that we share a lot about at The Ground and Tabula Rasa Farms. This is the food forest Megan was talking about. But the moment I want to share here is just seeing that spring flow 5 to 10 times its volume within a couple of years from our work there is really amazing, that so quickly we can impact something that's so important for the health of this landscape and the organisms and people living there. Finding the axolotl in Big Sky, that was a real moment of just, aha, if we take one step forward in the right direction, nature's not just going to take the next 10 steps, it's going to take the next 100 steps. And this is really an amazing way of walking in healthy relationship with our Mother Earth. And another moment I want to share with SEP, I've done all these incredible projects. One that we don't get to talk about a lot, but I think we're going to start to get to talk about more, was in Malibu, California, where the work we did saved the house twice. First from the wildfire, and then again from the landslide after the wildfire. And this was done just creating small earthen water bodies, terraces, food forests, hydrated, healthy landscapes that prevent that inflow of fire. This I want to share as more of this should have been such a small, simple project, and it was a nightmare because of process. And process makes all the difference in the world. And so in this case, we were working with another outfit, and they have a certain process for doing a key. We ended up opening up way more earth than we needed to because that's how they wanted to do it. And we ended up making mountains of muck that needed to be dealt with. Whereas if we had just done our normal strategy here, this would have been super easy, straightforward. Instead, we were nearly getting big excavators stuck and had all of this super wet material to deal with. And so it's to understand that the little nuanced differences like in this case, just knowing to open up the key 1 meter wide instead of several meters wide because there was water flowing into the key, that can be the difference of several days of work and a lot of heartache. And so that's why it's so important to scale things appropriately, to do actions, see the responses, and also take really good care in our work with our Mother Earth. This is a project in Yakima, Washington that we did, and this is the change just pretty much immediately within a couple of years. So you see these two areas on the left and on the right. Now, part of this, the original plan here was to just drain this water on the right away for the big center pivot that went in. And instead we said, let's hold on to that water. Let's create a nice feature here. And let's also improve this other area that has water. And in this case, this water was just smacked into a pipe. Actually, all along down here, this is essentially a braid of the waterway that had been smacked into a toxic concrete and asbestos pipe underground to get maximum cultivation area. And so there we created this water body, and we went from this is what was in that area to this within a very short period of time. And now when you go back, this is just a total oasis of birds and geese and waterfowl and frogs and everything coming to life in that area just from that one little change. And so a bit of what we want to share here is also where we see the future of water stories going. So I'll pass it around again to each of you guys to give a little bit of thoughts on that and where you would like to see water stories go. And then we'll open it up to all of you for question and answer. So we've done really, I'm very pleased with the amount we've done in just a couple of years, creating all of these different films, reaching over 6,000 people in more than 200 different countries, and really building capacity amongst people. For me, this was always the biggest goal with Water Stories. It came from Sepp saying, one of you is not enough. There needs to be hundreds, thousands, or even millions. And it's been really incredible to get to be part of that mentorship, legacy, transfer of perspective, of knowledge, of wisdom. I've been very blessed to learn from all sorts of incredible people like Sepp Holzer, like Rajendra Singh, like John Hemminghaus, like Peter Marshall, and there's many, many more than could fit on the screen here. And so how can we bring that to as many people as possible? Because we see these stories of incredible results, reviving rivers, restoring rainfall, restoring deserts. They're all around the world. And so our goal is really to make a whole new map of new practitioners and new incredible projects from all around the world. And we have many more than can fit on a map here, but these are just some of the locations to give you a sense that this really is something that's already starting to spread all around the world. And so one of our main mechanisms for doing this is through our core course, where we really try and teach people how to do all of these things for themselves and also find where they fit within this greater effort of water cycle restoration. We're not all going to be earth movers. We're not all going to be advocates. We're not all going to be land stewards, but each of us have a really important role to play within this bigger puzzle. And so what I really love seeing is, the people who have done the course and come to some of these in-person events, you can see every one of these people in this picture is doing something really impactful with water in their life. And the same can be said for all of the people in this picture. The same can be said for all of the people in this picture. It's, whether it's Nick working for high-end hotels or Lorenzo working for high-end wineries, or people just starting to work on their own projects or in their neighborhoods, in their communities, we really can have such a positive role in our earth systems around us. And all we have to do is get started along that journey. So we have our live course, which opens once a year. The enrollment is open through the end of this month and then won't open again until next year. And then we have the self-paced course available anytime. Our in-person workshops have been a really big success. We have a pond building workshop coming up in Samothraki in Greece this summer. And I want to leave it with this quote while you guys are thinking about where you want to see the future of water stories go, that knowing is not enough. We must apply. That willing is not enough. We must do. And that doesn't mean we all need to be in the cab of an excavator. You know, the work that Julia is doing is incredibly important to the future. The work that Raleigh is doing is incredibly important to the future. We all have a role that we can play. And so get out there, do something, show up and speak up in your local communities, be a voice for the voiceless organisms around you. And I think you'll find that it brings a level of fulfillment that is hard to even express in words. Maybe we go, sorry, go for it, Raleigh.
Say what a fantastic showcase of everybody's awesome projects. Just ultra satisfying. But yeah, this is a great opportunity. If you had burning questions, there's a Q&A chat box down below. And, you know, if we have a bit of time, we could allow you guys to like ask your question live. And in fact, we really encourage that because it's great hearing your voices instead of just some words on the screen. Well, basically, one question so far from DJ Wells. Can you share any examples or two of failures that you've learned from?
Oh, yeah. All sorts of them. And if you're not failing, you're not trying, I would argue. You know, some of it relates to there was one time that I just had this total catastrophe listening to someone not following my own logic and got into a really giant, expensive mess that was one of those moments where I just went to bed hoping I was going to wake up and it was going to all be a dream. And so I think you have to be really respectful when you're working with this type of big equipment. You can create big issues on a landscape. You can create big issues for yourself. You can destroy all kinds of life. And so you have this incredible power. And if you're not, as soon as you get into this frantic mentality, you're going to start making mistakes. And I think that was the biggest failure of that day, was not sitting back, relaxing. In wilderness first responder, they say take a cigarette break, but it's basically you don't have to smoke, but just sit back, be calm, get calm, cool, and collected, and make your decisions from that space. Because when you're making decisions from this frantic, stressed out space, you're not going to make good decisions. And I think that's how we got ourselves into this mess a lot with, you know, where we sit from a watershed perspective right now. So that's the most vivid one that always comes to mind. But there have been a lot of different ones over time. I think at the beginning, I had a real inclination to do more than was actually necessary given the client's goals, wanting to create what I would want on that landscape rather than what actually suits the person living there. That's a really easy trap to fall into. But I wonder if before we go into the question and answer, I'd love to hear from each of you guys real briefly. Just what do you see for the future of water stories? Where do you want it to be going over the next couple of years?
Good question. Oh, Megan, hands raised.
Yeah, love to share a little bit about that. So my personal journey has recently taken me more towards the human connection piece. And so something that I would love to see in the coming years with water stories is that the network we build is a network built on honesty and reputability. English is not my strong suit. But basically a platform where people are doing water cycle restoration stuff. They're doing all sorts of things that are helping us build this regenerative future that we all want our children's children to live in a way that really connects us back with our humanity. So I'd love for Water Stories to continue to be like the premier platform for water cycle restoration techniques, connections. If you're a landowner looking for someone to hire, it's the place you go to find someone to work with. If you're a person who's looking for a volunteer person to help you on your et cetera, you know, but doing so in a way that is really challenging to our current society's modern way of communicating in a way that's more symbiotic to people involved.
Nick, you want to go next?
Yeah, for me, there's several things. So one is I really want to get the knowledge out there to as many people as possible. And so I really want to continue with what we've done a lot on the newsletter and social media. It's just lots and lots and lots of free content for people to really get started, because I think that's super important for people who just want to learn something and they're really dedicated and get the easy things out there. And when they're willing to take the next step and really want to take this seriously, they can take the course. But I think this is super important to continue getting out as much as possible on that side. And then similar to Megan, it's really the human side. So building that community of people who are passionate and who know what they're doing. It's so nice. When we were teaching, I don't remember when it was, at some point last year in Italy, we were teaching the workshop together. And so I met lots of great students there. And so now, because for us, with our organization, like we have so much work coming in now for us here in Europe, and it's just, we can't do it time-wise. There's just not enough days in the year. And so we have some clients that have to wait until next year, but also now we can give some of those jobs over to students. So it's really nice to know that, we have the next generation of practitioners. Zach kind of started everything. He taught us, and now we can go to the next generation and have lots of people where we know they're capable, they're doing great work. And we just know they're great humans. So if people do the Water Stories course, you kind of know they're awesome. And then when you meet in person, that's just the best. And then when you work together on projects and this communal aspect, it's just fantastic. So I really want to, focus on that and develop that further.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. I
You
reckon
want to go next? Yeah.
I reckon the future that I see in Water Stories is we provide a model to lower all the barriers against water cycle restoration worldwide. Like, so, you can have, like, Plug Oregon provide so many model types. So all of a sudden, water cycle restoration becomes a normal thing where it's allowed in Oregon, it's allowed in California, it's allowed in the West, it's allowed in Europe. It's like any laws that are against, natural pond building or check dams or, rain gardens are all of a sudden just disappear because this is so commonplace. And it'd be great to see, we provide models for that. We provide models for like great business models for people getting into this line of work. And just, while people are looking at climate science, this can be the model for one of the most actionable steps that we can take for ecosystem restoration. So I just see the future is if we keep going, eventually we can hit that a little bit of the exponential growth to become part of the mainstream science for climate and environmental restoration, where this becomes very, very commonplace. So yeah, I think this is just, the future is just growing this till thousands, tens of thousands, and eventually more people doing this professionally and is doing this in their community and then impacting the laws. And I think that's where eventually we're going to go. And so heaps of more kick-ass films. That's inevitably going to happen too.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. That's a great vision. Apollo?
Yeah, I completely agree with everybody. I mean, I share all of those sentiments. And yeah, I look forward to the day whenever the best economical decision is also the best ecological decision. And I feel like a mark of a great economy is like drinkable rivers. It's like this whole ideology around that. And I particularly want to point out our advocacy towards the kids and the youth, and getting a lot of this in its own way and in its own version of storytelling into schools, into youth education, and they say that's saying, it's hard to repair broken men, but easier to raise strong people. And so it's how do we lift up the children? How do we educate? How do we make things hip? How do we make things cool? How do we add creative flair to this work, which, is real nitty gritty and nuts and bolts and like technical. And that's why I love these films and these like inspirational videos that we're doing. It's like, yeah, how do we like unlock the passion and the emotion within people and especially the youth to carry this forward and getting this into the mainstream. And yeah, look forward to all of that. And yep, we're on the right path. So cheers.
Well, I see some really good questions already. Flipping it.
Yeah, Julia, do you want to add some? Oh yeah.
It's kind of hard to add to that. Like people have said, I mean, yeah, I guess I could say I just want to see us everywhere, just everywhere. I would love if, people at the COP conferences were paying lip service to water stories. I would love if, you can say Harvard University or Oxford University and people have a certain feeling of, respect and awe towards that education. I would love if that was us, if people were like, oh, water stories, that is where you go to be educated on water cycle restoration, and just have that kind of recognition and broke through to the mainstream. But yeah, basically what everybody else said for sure.
Awesome. Raleigh, do you have your eye on a question to get us started?
I mean, first of all, there was Geffen had just a question about the core course. He's like, I'm thinking about doing the core course. I'm currently working as a civil engineer, but want to get more involved with the land. What makes this course a good fit for someone like me? Yeah, great question.
Yeah, the course, I think, well, first off, do any of you guys want to answer that instead of me? You're welcome to.
I can just say with my work with the former student Tim Orman, who I believe is a civil engineer here in North Carolina, he has been applying like a lot of the techniques that he's learned through the core course with his work with the municipalities. And yeah, he keeps raving about how much it's benefited him and just the perspectives and also just like the more like internal approach that the course offers to just solidify one's like internal dialogue and mindset on things. And he says that that in particular has like taken him, really far, as well as all the technical nitty gritty stuff, because, he can now like talk to like the operators, he can talk to the contractors, and he can like really convey like the nuts and bolts of like what he wants. And it's not just some design on a paper or anything. So yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, we have lots of various different professionals from architecture, landscape architecture, engineering, environmental sciences, all of those kinds of fields. I think it provides a really unique perspective in a really unique way. And so it's not heavy on jargon. So it also, I see Ramya's question. You can go into this course with no background, and it's going to get you just as much as if you go into the course with a ton of background and information going into it. I think it provides a unique perspective that I've gained through experience and tries to condense that into all the essential pieces, not to get people to do exactly what I do, but to inform what they want to do with the science and practice of water cycle restoration. So how do you bring it into your normal landscaping job or into your nonprofit work or into your civil engineering work? It's much more about approach and strategy and way of thinking than specific techniques or recipes or anything of that nature. I see a question. Do you have a listing of people who are doing this work in New Mexico? If you go on the practitioners page on Water Stories, that's where all of our certified practitioners are listed. And then if you join the community, you can see who's doing this work either for themselves or learning about it or just more broadly interested in it in your local community. So I know we do have a number of people from New Mexico, Leanne and a number of others. And then there's a lot of people in the Southwest in general as we expand that to Arizona and those kinds of places. So I will put that practitioners page into the chat here. And then also the community itself is a great place to meet other people engaged in and interested in this type of work.
I see some with their hand up from Water Stories community. Oh, they lowered their hand. Well, this is a great opportunity. If anyone in the audience wants to raise their hand, we'll unmute you so you can ask your question live. If you have a comment, I think it's a great opportunity for that, especially if you had any questions about, what the projects of the team had to share. So don't be shy. Raise those hands. Come on, we want to hear your voice. But if not, we'll just keep doing it. Well, we'll get somebody. Hey, there we go. Beverly raised her hand. So, hey, Beverly. It's in the process of unmuting there. Hey.
Hello. Hello,
Beverly.
everyone. Ate. My name is Beverly Castaneda. I'm Apache Dene Ute, and I come from Denver, Colorado. And I just recently met Zach, and I just have to say that what you're creating is really beautiful and lovely. And it is an honor to watch and see how the sacred waters are uniting the people. And thank you for thinking about the habitat. Thank you for looking at how not only are you restructuring or creating ponds, you're creating more life for the habitat that is there. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that. And in many different traditional medicines, water means many different things, and water has many different languages and names. So that's all I'll just say for right now. And I'm really grateful that you're doing this work. And thank you for the platform, and thank you for the women who spoke about uniting humanity. And it is the heart of all hearts that unites us to heal, to bring us back to our sovereign beings. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Beverly. Thanks for sharing that. And Beverly does really amazing work with water healing. And I think we're going to have her on for a future event. So you guys have that to look forward to as well. And really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's see, DJ raised her hand here. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you fine. Hey, DJ.
I have a question and then a comment.
All right.
You may have already covered this question, but do you have a network that if you take the course and become a practitioner, that you can ask questions among your other experienced practitioners how to handle stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the big things that was very important to us, is not just to train people, but to give them the continued support to get going and be really successful. So we have an alumni program and monthly professional development sessions. I just had them earlier today, where essentially everyone brings their projects and their challenges and what they're working on, and we all give feedback and help and support. And I'll say for me, this has easily become the most enjoyable part of Water Stories, is just getting to connect with these same people every month that are all around the world working very hard on these efforts, that are very wonderful, beautiful people. And to just get to continue to be of service to them is really a great honor.
Well, the comment starts with that I'm a retired professionally licensed civil engineer. I went into engineering in 1970 because I was laughed at for being a woman. Back then, we didn't even have the Clean Water Act. Over the years, I got more involved in being a water engineering specialist. And like your engineering friend in North Carolina, I believe this is sorely needed knowledge for the engineers who handle water. I mentioned that it may be worthwhile to contact Engineers Without Borders. They would probably be the first ones to be able to truly apply this kind of knowledge, because so often they go in and they superimpose these engineering concepts we use in the West into these areas, and the last 6 months they're considered a success. So that would be one place. And another one would be to look at maybe doing seminars for engineers in different engineering colleges and universities, even if it's just an introduction kind of thing, because I think that once particularly, like I said, I'm retired, but the younger folks will see, oh, this is so much more in line with just what I want to do career wise, but also with our more environmentally attuned. And I believe it could really help get things taken off. Well, one thing I've done, of course, like I said, I'm retired, so I'm not in a place to be able to do it as well, is to incorporate these kind of things into my engineering designs. And I'd be willing to help do that, go into universities and all that. I had the materials and the authorization to use what you have and help do, like Seb says, we need tens of thousands. That's my comment.
Oh, we totally agree. And, you know, the whole Water Stories library, that's the reason that it's all out there for free, for you guys to share with others, to share the animations, the films, the stories, all of those kinds of things. So, yes, please, that would be great. I think we need people exactly like yourself to help train up the next generation of practitioners in a way that improves our outcomes and what we're able to accomplish. So, yeah, I see huge potential there, and we would love your help and support in helping spread that.
That's a great question from Natasja Miradovich. Have you worked in the areas where there's a lot of corruption present, like what students are fighting currently against in Serbia? It creates some special social aspects of the project, of the mindsets of the locals. Yeah.
Oh man, yes. In short, yes. I think corruption is such a big issue in all parts of the world. I mean, a lot of the California water issues are from corruption as well. So no place is immune to it. I'll say if you get the corrupt people on your side, it can actually be easier to work in very corrupt places, which seems counterintuitive. But, you know, Sepp had this great rant about how he comes to the United States and he's not allowed to do anything, but he can go to Russia where free speech wasn't allowed, but people can work with their lands and work with their waters and build these water bodies, grow their own food, do all of these things that they're not allowed to do in the Americas. So it's not to say that one is better or worse than the other. They each have their own challenges, but working in some countries where corruption is present to the point that I'm seeing it as an outsider involved in these projects, and it's talked about pretty openly. Um, it's if you have those people on your side, everything gets rubber stamped and you can just go, go, go. And this is how projects like, you know, the Lowest Plateau, one of the biggest environmental restoration projects we know, it can only happen with a heavy-handed government enforcing things upon people. So I think there are ways, that's all to say, I think there are ways in every different context, and it looks different and it takes form in different ways. But there's always a viable path. It's just a matter of finding it and then pursuing it. We hope you guys will really be part of this journey. Whether you do the course or not, really doesn't matter so much. We have so many ways to participate in the community, sharing the content, getting active in your local community, sharing everything that's available already. There are lots of ways to get started in your journey with water cycle restoration. The course is a great option if you want to progress really fast over 6 months all together with a group of people doing the same thing from around the world. But there are so many opportunities outside of the course itself as well. So we hope to see you guys in the community, see you guys in these webinars, and see you guys out in the world creating more water and life.